weapon, one that blows the world away. Build a rocket that'll come and take away us all. Take away us all. Gonna come back.
Vice President and General Manager Mobile, Alex Katuzian.
Good morning. Good morning. Yes, I know. I have the same outfit on today. The t-shirt was so popular, my boss made me do it again. In fact, we have a point system that we developed. For every 10,000 855s our customers buy, they get a free Super Snapdragon t-shirt. We had a great day yesterday, detailing out the realities of 5G with our partners and the demos. Hopefully we had a great set of interviews to help you write your articles and your reports. We had 110,000 views, 110,000 views on our live stream. Last year we had 20,000, we have 110,000 this year. Yeah. And hopefully we'll do better today. But just a quick point out to our competitors who are watching, please pay special attention on the 855 detail sessions to see what you have to compete with. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough. So we have a jam-packed session for you today. As promised, we're going to have the details of the 855 talked about by my colleagues. But before we do that, we have a few more partner presentations and announcements to go through. So at this time, I'd like to bring on stage one of our very close partners. We've been working with him and his company for 5 years since they started. Our partnership has gotten super strong over the years. I'd like to invite to the stage Pete Lau, CEO of OnePlus. Thank you, Pete. Thank you.
Thank you all. I would like to present in Chinese. 我也非常想跟大家用英文讲，但是的确这不是我擅长的，所以今天为了更好的跟我们的在座的各位交流，所以呢，我们把这个专业的活交给我们的同传的老师。OK， 我今天非常荣幸在这里代表一加跟大家分享一加跟高通的故事。当然，接下来也是我们的广告时间。5年来，一加一直在用自己的行动来证明在手机全球的旗舰机市场的另外一种可能性。一个年轻的公司可以仅仅通过产品和用户口碑获得全世界的认可。5年前，我们发布了第一款一加手机，正式采用的高通骁龙801。在骁龙801的强大性能的助力下，我们一加一在全球获得了超过150万的用户的支持，并且从那个时候开始，一加就一直采用高通骁龙800系列的处理芯片。我们也成为在手机行业唯一一个只做安卓旗舰的手机品牌，并且我们也一直只使用高通骁龙800的芯片。正是因为我们一直只有800系列的这个芯片，所以我们的系统、我们的软件可以只需要针对800做优化，所以我们也成为能够把骁龙800系列的性能发挥到极致的手机品牌。那我们知道，昨天高通已经发布了85地表最强的旗舰处理芯片，所以我今天在这里也可以郑重地宣布，我们在2019年一加将首批推出搭载骁龙85的旗舰手机。85的性能大家都知道
to come
是
equipped
应该
with
是
the
现在
Qualcomm
全球最
Snapdragon
强的
855.
手机处理芯片。
We know that
它也是
the
旗舰机的唯一
855
选择，
is the most
当然也
powerful
是
in
5G 手
chipsets.
机的唯一选
It
择
is。definitely the one and only choice for
当
our
然我们
next
这里也可以
flagship
做一个小
and
小
for
的
our
预告。
5G phone.
我们
And to our friends at Qualcomm,
85的订单上也会
this means a very handsome order of Qualcomm chips next year from OnePlus that is guaranteed to put a smile on your faces. I think I'm already seeing Amon smiling already.
手机行业是一个连
Well, we all know that in the cell phone industry, even a giant can fall unexpectedly. However, OnePlus has been maintaining a steady, outstanding growth. Last year, our revenue doubled, and I'm sure in 2018, the growth looks very nice as well, and we will be announcing the details at the end of this year. We're now among the top 5 high-end Android smartphone brands across the world. And in Western Europe, we're now among the top 3 premium Android smartphone brands. According to research done by Counterpoint, in the second and third quarters of this year, OnePlus has the most market share in the premium smartphone segment in India. We do have a lot of analyst friends here. I'd like to share with you a different set of numbers. In the high-end smartphone market in India, if we include OnePlus in the first half of 2018, the market grew by 44% overall. And if we were to leave out OnePlus, it would have shrunk by 12%. So that means OnePlus has actually brought growth to the Indian premium phone market. In October this year, we established a partnership with T-Mobile. And we launched OnePlus 6E on October 29th. At the T-Mobile Times Square flagship store, more than 700 people showed up to get the OnePlus 7T. That is actually a record breaker for T-Mobile. I was also there. It seems like the whole Times Square was filled up with all the people queuing up for our OnePlus 6E. And an employee at T-Mobile said that more people queued up than they did for iPhone. It was really amazing. I'd like to show you a trailer illustrating very enthusiastic atmosphere. Over the years, our global community has always been the most important driving force for us. Over 5 million tech enthusiasts from over 196 different countries, epitomized by young tech fanatics who never settle. This community is made up of designers, college students, as well as industry experts, practitioners, as well as tech professionals. Not once have we thought that we understand technology better than our users, so we believe in our users and are always willing to interact with them. Over these 5 years, our community members have posted over 57 million times to date, an incredible amount of valuable feedback. Last year, we had a community event in the United States, and a community member told us that he had personally recommended OnePlus to over 1,326 friends and his family members. Wow, it's great, but I think this is just the beginning. we're ready to embrace the dawn of the 5G era, a disruptive and revolutionary era for us all. Last year, Qualcomm and OnePlus joined hands in having a research team together, and in August this year, OnePlus 5G project team successfully established a 5G connection to Qualcomm's lab. And in October this year, we sent the world's first tweet over 5G. For us, users of OnePlus are the earliest adopters globally. These are tech fanatics. They're always trying to move to appreciate and use new things. And at OnePlus, we've been in pursuit of extreme speeds in the last 5 years. Members of the community have been discussing 5G for over 2 years now, and since 2016, we've been pouring great efforts into 5G research. We believe that no other company out there is better suited to take on 5G than OnePlus, because this is a course decided by our mission as well as by our community members. While we're approaching the end of my presentation, I'd like to make a very important announcement to all of you. But let me start again with the video.
5G 对一加来说是机遇也是挑战，它意味着我们可以给用户带来更快的速度、更好的用户体验。我们对于5G 的决心和我们要做好旗舰的决心是一样的。
We're really excited to be working with OnePlus on bringing 5G to the UK. We've got state-of-the-art R&D, we're trying new technologies, breaking new ground. It's a great match. 5G is a really exciting next step for our customers. It's going to mean that we can bring the physical and digital worlds together with augmented reality. With the lower latency, we can really enhance the gaming experiences. We can give a much more reliable data experience to our customers in the most busy locations across the UK.
我们非常高兴和意义这样全球领先的运营商合作，我们非常有信心，在明年在欧洲第一个发布5G 商用的 device。
Thank you, Pete. Thank you. We will never settle.
谢谢刘总，确实
Yes.
我们
So at this time, I'd like to bring out another partner of ours that we have very special collaborations with. So I'd like to introduce Fotis Kronis, the 5G Executive Advisor at BTEE. Fotis,
Have an incredible team. Thank you for an amazing collaboration. It's such a great honor to be first to launch 5G with your device. So hello everybody. How are the 5G energy levels today?
晚上好。那么今天我们的5G能量是不是非常高
That's
涨？
great. So with OnePlus, we're working really well, fantastic on the R&D to create an incredible customer experience. I mean, it's super important. We have similar visions, you know, we have a great fit. Both of us have very demanding customers. You know, we have a very demanding customer base, very much into high tech, high quality, high speeds, fantastic applications. So that's why our brands have a great fit together. And this is a great place to be here with Qualcomm, you know, to have a great partnership. Just before we actually arranged this, the OnePlus 6T, we already had a great uptake in our customers, you know, with OnePlus. So we absolutely excited, and we're very excited about building this 5G era together, and you know, looking forward for a great new decade of wireless and 5G. Thanks so much. Excellent. Fantastic. Thank you so much.
回来。All right, I'd like to officially announce that OnePlus will be establishing a strategic partnership with EE in Europe on 5G research. And in the first half of 2019, we'll see EE and OnePlus being the first in the European market with the OnePlus 5G smartphone.
Come on, yeah.
一起来合个影吧。
Excellent. Let's take a selfie. Let's turn this way.
yeah.
我们把头转过来，面对屏幕，拍张自拍。
Excellent. Here we go. Awesome. Hey guys, make a wave, come
来
on.
大家跟我一起来造个势，
Thank you so much. Thanks, Peter.
谢谢，谢谢您，刘总。
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Please. Thank you, guys.
you.
Thank you so much for your partnership. So we have a lot of firsts happening in 5G. Some of our partners couldn't be here. I'd like to leave you with a video from our partner Telstra, Andy Penn, the CEO of Telstra. And after which, my very good friend and colleague, Keith Crescent, who's the Senior Vice President of Technology, Product Management, and Planning, to come up to start the 8:55 detail sessions. So please enjoy the video.
Hi there. Well, I'm so sorry I couldn't join you in Hawaii this week. We've been busy working with the Qualcomm team in Sydney on our 5G plans. We've made several announcements recently that I'd like to share with you. Telstra has always endeavoured to be a leader in telecommunications technology, working with partners such as Qualcomm. As such, we've had a string of world and Australian 5G firsts, many of those from our 5G Innovation Centre on the Gold Coast. And just 2 weeks ago, together with Ericsson and Qualcomm, we achieved Australia's first live 5G connection using a commercial 5G chipset on Telstra's mobile network. Over the last few months, we've also been rolling out 5G technology on our network. We now have 130 5G enabled mobile sites around the country, and we're well on track to having 200 cells up by the end of the year. That's leading the market in Australia. We've always valued our relationship with Qualcomm, which started well before we were starting to roll out 5G. Literally just 2 years ago, Telstra launched the world's first gigabit capable network and device with the Nighthawk modem powered by Qualcomm. We're now working with Qualcomm to bring 5G to Australians as soon as the technology is available, using devices powered by the new Snapdragon 855 mobile platform and the Snapdragon X50 5G modem to deliver an enhanced performance and superior mobile experience to all of our customers. This week, Telstra unveiled to the market the world's first connection of a 5G connected device, the HTC mobile broadband device, on our network in full production. That device will be exclusive to Telstra, and we expect to have on our shelves many of these devices for our customers in the first half of 2019. This is an important milestone in Telstra's 5G roadmap, signalling Australian consumers and businesses are one step closer to getting their hands on 5G commercial devices. The Qualcomm NTPs are key to ensuring that we are collaboratively testing, assessing and providing feedback on the performance of the latest leading edge developments in wireless technology. Quite simply, Telstra could not achieve these sorts of milestones without the support of global leaders and critical partners such as Qualcomm, and we very much value our partnership with you. I hope you enjoy the rest of the week in Hawaii. I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic tech conference, and I look forward to catching up with you all in due course. Thanks very much.
Good morning. Thank you for being here with us. We are really, truly excited you're all here. I don't actually see an empty seat in the house, so no one's by the pool. We really appreciate that. And overall, it's really a great, impressive group. I hope you realize, you with your colleagues, what an awesome opportunity it is to be here in Maui and have such esteemed colleagues for the week. So our team is really excited to talk to you about the Snapdragon 855 today. And my guess is after a day or so, you're really excited to hear about it. But before we get into the details of the 855, I just want to share a little bit of history. And the reason I want to share this history is because I want you to appreciate how important and how special it is for us to introduce the world's first 5G capable platform. Years ago, there was an important observation made by an engineer named Gordon Moore. I'm sure most of you have heard of him. Dr. Moore made an observation, and that observation was the number of transistors in an integrated circuit was doubling about every 2 years. Now that was a really important observation, and that observation was later called Moore's Law. Now Moore's Law was especially important because it provided a beacon or a lighthouse for the semiconductor industry for decades to come. Well, today, I want to invite you to share a new observation together with me and together with Qualcomm. Except this observation isn't about things on the transistor or nanometer scale. This observation is about the global wireless ecosystem. Take a look at the chart behind me, and let's see if you can see a pattern. 1G was introduced and started to ramp in the 1980s. 2G was introduced and started to ramp in the 1990s. 3G was introduced and ramped and became to dominate in the first decade of the new millennium. The decade we are now is a decade that's been dominated by 4G, and there's no doubt the next decade will be dominated by 5G. Do you see a pattern? Does anyone see a pattern? 1G in the 80s, 2G in the 90s, 3G. Every decade takes a decade, 10 years, for the global ecosystem to move the semiconductor industry in terms of communications to the next generation technology. So we have a once-in-a-decade transition. Now, I was thinking about it last night, and I think this observation also deserves a law. I was thinking something kind of subtle, maybe Creston's law or something like that. And then I thought a little bit more, and I thought, you know, Cristiano actually might be here in the front row today, and he is. So I'm thinking Aumann's law would be a good idea to celebrate the decade transition in G technology. So what do you think? What do you think? So we'll see how that trends on Twitter, and we'll see how that trends over the next 10 or so years. And when we're all gathered together in Maui in the year 2029, we can see if 6G is here or not. How does that sound? So let me dive a little bit deeper back into the 80s and 1G. I remember 1G quite well. I was in college. I was working at a company, ironically called Radio Shack. Radio Shack. Some of you may have heard of it. And I made commission at Radio Shack. It wasn't too great when I sold things like capacitors and resistors. Didn't make a whole lot of money. But every once in a while, someone came in the 80s, and they said, you know, I really want to untether my phone. I want to make a call from my car or my backyard or when I'm on travel. I don't want to be limited by a wire. They would pay about $3,000, and they would get some antennas they could mount on their car, and we sold the mounting hardware. They'd buy an extra battery pack, a little suitcase, and they'd get that phone mounted in their car. It seems a little off today based on what we have in our pockets, but it was revolutionary in the 80s that you could make a call mobile, right? That was 1G. 10 years later, 2G. Now what happened with 2G? Well, in the mid-80s, a company with Irwin Jacobs and 6 others decided to contribute to help improve the quality of communications, or Qualcomm. That company was formed in the mid-80s, and they contributed to the move to 2G, or digital technology, in the 90s. So what happened in the 90s? Phones got a lot cheaper, a lot smaller, and call quality got a lot better because the world had moved to digital. That was the 90s, another generational leap. Some other things happened in the 90s, something especially important called the internet. There was a few IPOs, for example, like Netscape, the introductions of a few new companies. You may have heard of them, Google being one, Alibaba being another in the 90s, because the internet was going to move from the desktop to mobile, and a new revolution, a new generation had begun. So 3G technology was introduced in 1999, and it's 3G that would dominate for the next decade. There was 2 basic communications protocols, right? CDMA-based and WCDMA or UMTS-based. They weren't necessarily compatible with each other, although Qualcomm developed silicon so you could build a phone that worked on both networks. And over the next decade, there was major advances in communication. as speed went from kilobits to megabits. But it's more than just communication. To have real generational improvement, you need improvements in just communication and computing, and we got that. Qualcomm introduced more powerful CPUs with our Scorpion CPU and more. During that decade, we introduced Adreno 3D graphics. It's a decade that saw higher resolution displays, WVGA and XGA. We integrated the camera for camera phones. We supported a number of high-level OSs, and of course, there was the App Store. And that combined communications and computing improvement allowed the proliferation of applications. Now you could use your phone for email, for social networking, watching videos, browsing the full internet. It was a revolution with 3G, a new generation. But what happened in the 90s? The 90s, the internet grew up. The internet became much more rich. Mobile broadband was required. And Qualcomm and others delivered mobile broadband, starting with the first networks in 2009. Now, over the next decade, again, there was significant improvements in 4G. Now, we took the two different standards in communications before and combined them with 4G LTE, which took the world by storm. Megabits per second turned into gigabits per second. Advancements in using technology like multi-mode and 4x4 MIMO to get those high speeds in communications. But those high speeds in communications need to be coupled with advances again in computing. So what happened on computing? The introduction of multi-core CPUs, the introduction of very advanced image signal processors. Displays went from 720 to 1080 to 2K, some even introduced 4K. Graphics advanced, including advanced APIs like Vulkan. The mobile industry took the lead in terms of process technology because of the importance of power and size, with 14 and 10 nanometer FinFET leading for the first time on mobile instead of the desktop for graphics. The phone also got more sensors and biometrics. And what happened to the application space? Social networking flourished. Instagram, WeChat. Payments flourished. Gaming, from a multiplayer standpoint, take advantage of graphics and computing and communications with games like the King of Honor or Fortnite. New devices from Oculus, such as the recent Oculus Go. Google Lens. And of course, the world changed too. You didn't have to have your own car or call a cab anymore. With your phone, you could call an Uber. You didn't have to reserve a room at a hotel anymore. You could use VRBO, or you could use Airbnb. And there's the application Tinder. I'm not exactly sure what that's for, but I hear that's pretty interesting too. That's the world of 4G. Now we're entering the world of 5G. So you had 3G in 1999, 4G in 2009, 5G networks in 2019. Now what's 5G bringing? It's bringing a massive increase in speed, starting with 5 gigabits per second peak. Massive IoT, because 5G isn't just about calls from person to person. It's not just about individuals accessing the internet. That's all true, but it's also about machine-to-machine communication. That's what it was designed for. So it's not just your handset, it's your automobile, it's your factory. You have low latency communications. So the world of the cloud and the world in your hand can be tied much more closely together with low latency. And you have mission critical applications. Those are the changes in communications. Well, what about computing? We have rapid advancements in artificial intelligence. The edge of the cloud is moving closer to the edge of the device in your hand. Cameras are much more advanced, and you'll hear about that today, with multiple cameras and time-of-flight sensors and depth. Process nodes are starting at 7 nanometer and below. We introduced ultrasonic sensors, right, that can see through the display, and there's a variety of voice assistants. So what we're doing at Qualcomm is forming a firm foundation, again, in communications and computing. And we will see in the days ahead what types of new applications are developed for the phone in your pocket and the device that you take to work every day, the factory and beyond. That's why a major theme of this conference is a new decade is here. It's a decade that will be dominated across the world with 5G communication. And the chip that's going to lead us into that next decade is the Snapdragon 855. Snapdragon 855 brings 5G. It brings huge advancements in AI, and all of that is going to be used in your pocket, and it's going to be used for new applications such as XR devices. Now let's take a little closer look at the Snapdragon 855 from a platform perspective. So as you can see, we have a 5G chip external to the Snapdragon 855. So from a development standpoint, we could develop the 855 SoC, and then in parallel, we could develop the 5G chip. But of course, we did a lot more than just provide a 5G chip. We also provided the RF, and we provided the RF front end, or the RFFE. So Qualcomm is providing all the technology from the SoC all the way to the antenna, all tuned and optimized on networks across the world so we can best help our customers. We also made enhancements in Wi-Fi. We made enhancements for audio, right? We made enhancements in power management. Alex introduced new fingerprint technology. So from a platform standpoint, we basically gathered all the pieces. Now let's dive a little bit deeper, and you're going to hear a lot more about it over the next hour and a half on the Snapdragon 855 SoC. If you look at each piece, we made enhancements, starting with the Snapdragon 8X24 modem. So you have 5G as an option, but LTE has gotten significant improvements, as had Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and location. Our new Spectra ISP takes an incredible amount of processing that was previously done in software and moves it into hardware. We continue to have the world's most secure chipset. Our Adreno graphics continues to lead the world in performance per watt. We have a major leap in performance in our new Cryo 485. And I would say, beyond communications, the biggest change of all in the Snapdragon 855 is in the Hexagon 690, which is transformed from a DSP to a more generic processor that's awesome for artificial intelligence. So we've made a lot of awesome improvements on the 855, and we're going to tell you about them today. Now, we have the next session set up in 5 pillars. So Durga's going to come on and talk about connectivity. Then we'll talk about performance. Then we'll talk about AI. Then camera and imaging. And then we'll talk about entertainment. And after you get inputs from the 5 different presenters, you'll have a great idea of the technical foundation we've laid with the 855 and what benefits that provides to end users. So with that, I'd like to introduce Durga, who's going to talk about the connectivity on the 855 platform. Thank you.
All right. Good morning, everyone. What a day yesterday with all the 5G announcements that went out. And there's so much talk about all the 5G deployments, the technology, what it actually is capable of. I'm going to spend the next 20 minutes or so explaining what's underneath the hood, and what's a sum total of all the connectivity experience that one can expect with 855. Now, first of all, overall from an 855 standpoint, welcome to the decade of multi-gigabit wireless connectivity. It spans multiple technologies, and we are no longer talking of just a single gigabit, but multi-gigabit wireless connectivity. That's what we are here for the next 10 years. How do we get there? How do we actually get this multi-gigabit connectivity with different technologies? Let's take a look. Starting with world's first 5G mobile platform spanning millimeter wave and sub-6 bands. This platform allows mobile operators across the globe, starting from right here in the United States, Europe, Australia, Japan, Korea, and eventually China, to launch 5G deployments without considering exactly which band is it that they are worried about. Both millimeter wave and sub-6 bands are supported in this 5G mobile platform, truly unleashing multi-gigabit 5G connectivity. Now, we talked a lot about 5G. What else do we have? How about LTE? Well, it was just about 2 years back that we introduced gigabit LTE into the commercial deployments. You could walk into a store and start buying a device that has a gigabit per second LTE connectivity. Well, here we are, integrating world's first 2 gigabits per second LTE connectivity. And this is a combination of 20 layers of LTE, allowing 90% of the mobile operators to mix and match different bands, whether it's TDD or FTD, whether it's licensed or unlicensed, to get to 2 gigabits per second. That's quite an achievement if you kind of think about the fact as to where we were. Remember, when we started off LTE back in the day, we used to be around 100 megabits per second or so. We've come a long way since then. The number of carriers that can be aggregated as a part of this 20 layers goes up to 7. That means you can mix and match the FTD and TDD bands along with unlicensed bands to put it all together. And how about Wi-Fi? Now, Wi-Fi technology has taken its own steps towards improving the performance, introducing world's first Wi-Fi 6 ready modem. This solution, aka it's also known as 802.11ax, that's Wi-Fi 6 is a name for that, it allows for a substantial improvement in both the capacity, coverage and range that we can get with Wi-Fi. There's a lot of technical details with that. I'll spend a little bit of time on it. 8x8 sounding allows for multi-user MIMO capability to be used while serving different users. As an end user, I get an improvement in my peak rate, improvement in my average rate along with the coverage. It's a far more power efficient device, allows us to actually use this for a longer duration in time, and the security has been enhanced quite significantly with Wi-Fi 6 ready solution. And finally, and brace yourself for this, introducing world's first 60 gigahertz Wi-Fi. Bear in mind, this is millimeter wave technology, just happens to be in Wi-Fi. 60 gigahertz Wi-Fi, which allows us to get to, and get this, 10 gigabits per second. 10 gigabits per second. That's wireline like speeds. It unleashes a completely different kind of commercial applications, both in consumer electronics space and in the personal electronics with mobile gaming, etc., which brings in a completely new experience. All these 4 technologies, multi-gigabit 5G, 2 gigabits per second LTE, Wi-Fi 6, and Wi-Fi 60 gigahertz with 802.11ad, all 4 packed together into a single solution. That's the power of connectivity that we are talking of in Snapdragon 855. Now, let's take a little bit further deeper look into what we have in 5G. If you kind of think about it, when you talk of a smartphone, a handheld form factor device, what goes underneath that? We have to look at it from different dimensions. We have to think in terms of what's the transmit power that I'm using. We have stringent power constraints and area constraints. It has to work in a non-line of sight mobile environment. A lot of things go underneath the hood. We have to start with the baseband. That's where all the modem processing is done. Gets coupled with the transceiver. That's where we do the D to A conversion and A to D. Couple this with all the nonlinear elements, the PAs, the LNAs, what is completely known as the RF front end, and finally the antennas put together. There's a lot of it, and keep in mind that we are talking of multiple technologies that have all been packed together, in addition to the fact that 5G itself actually spans different bands, both millimeter wave and sub-6. A lot of complexity involved in this. What we have done as a part of Snapdragon 855 is to simplify things for the device ecosystem, to make sure that we provide a compact, integrated set of solutions that allow the OEMs to, we have borne all the complexity on our end, but the OEMs then get to focus on what they are best at, putting it all together and then unleashing new applications. It's a complete system capability that is being provided as a part of our 855 solution. This is the level of integration that is necessary in 5G. We can take a look at it in a slightly different way. This is what would constitute the overall, we just talked about it, both from an application processor and the 5G modem. Now we knew that we have to put in a lot of pieces together for 5G. It's not something that just happens overnight. We have to put in a lot of pieces together. We anticipated the technology. We knew that back in the day when we said we want to go with 2019 commercial deployments, it is an acceleration of 5G, but we have to also do it the right way. And that's what this solution actually provides. So let's start with the overall architecture. Then we start adding the antenna elements. What you saw yesterday with the device, the reference device, it had multiples of these antenna elements. The demos that you hopefully saw yesterday included devices which had these antenna elements that are embedded and integrated into the device itself. But this is one level of integration. The second level of integration is to now start bringing in the rest of the components. The PAs, the LNAs, and all the other RF front-end components which make it all work together, and allows the device to start using beamforming techniques to talk to the base stations and receive. It's a comprehensive solution, it's a system level solution if you kind of think about it, which integrates all these pieces together in sub-6 and millimeter wave bands. And here's the interesting part. Did we talk about LTE? Yes, of course we did. This involves a combination of both 4G and 5G. Gone are the days when you would be on 1G, and if you wanted to go to a different G, you have to fall back to the other G. We are not talking of that anymore. We have to simultaneously be connected to both 4G and 5G technologies. The solution that we have provided here actually enables a device to be simultaneously connected to gigabit LTE on one side and 5G on the other side, and it doesn't matter where the user is at that point in time. When you're in 5G coverage, you get 5G connectivity. If not, that's okay, you still have 4G. And when you are in 5G coverage, you're still connected to 4G technology. As an end user, I don't care exactly how I'm being served, but it's a comprehensive solution that mobile operators and OEMs can take to the market. One question that comes up very frequently is, what is 5G going to do for me? Didn't we just say that LTE has 2 gigabits per second and 5G has multiple gigabits per second, say 5 gigabits per second? That doesn't seem like a whole lot. So what gives? What is exactly driving consumers and mobile operators to go ahead with 5G technology? This is a very subtle point. I want to spend a few minutes actually explaining this part. We talk about user experience in an abstract term, and yet there are some of the applications which are right in front of us. Here's the interesting and important part about 5G. In 5G, we've placed a lot of emphasis on significantly increasing the average data rate. As an average user and as a cell edge user, I have a guaranteed data rate which is significantly high. Imagine if on an average you were to walk around in one of the dense urban areas and have something like 100 to 500 megabits per second on an average, not just the peak data rate but on an average. That is going to change the way that we start using our devices. 4K streaming is a more natural thing to do in that sense. As a network operator, because every user gets a much higher average data rate, what it really means is that the sum total data rate, the network capacity, is significantly higher compared to where it used to be. Which means, as a mobile operator, one can start offering better data plans, bundling different kinds of devices together. It's the beginning of where the network economics start to change. And there's also an effect in terms of making sure that more devices get to be used by a single user, regardless of exactly which device is being used, they're all bundled together in a single data plan. So 4K streaming is far more prominent. What else? You must have seen at least one of the demos yesterday in which you walk up and you want to download a movie. And if you're downloading a movie, typically in the order of a few gigabytes, and you're downloading at like 1 gigabit per second on an average, or 500 megabits per second, in just a few seconds you're done. That's it. It also means that the overall user experience becomes a far more interesting one, wherein you tend to take connectivity for something it's always there. We don't really care how it happens, but it happens, and now we can actually start using that in a different way. Another part, and these are all existing user applications, we haven't yet touched upon the next ones yet, we'll get to it. The next one is latency. 5G is the first system, the wireless communication system, where we have spent a lot of time thinking about how do we reduce the latency significantly from where we used to be. At some point in time, we drew a line in the sand and we said we want to get to millisecond latencies. Why? Because our belief is we're going to build it and applications will emerge after that. Low latency is an integral part of the 5G system design. That's what is baked into our 855 mobile platform. And in that sense, it brings in different kinds of applications, especially when you're in a collaborative environment, whether it happens to be gaming, that's clearly one set of applications, but also a collaborative environment where you have multiple individuals exchanging information with each other, whether it's documentation or images, and still working together as a single unit. Low latency is an integral part of 5G. So what else do we have after that? Well, we're going to talk about a few of these things more tomorrow, but I want to spend some time on these two applications. The first one is cloud computing. Over time, there's been a gradual change in the way we start using our laptops. Our laptops today, or actually not today, just a few years back, used to be a device in which we make all the content is available in the laptop itself, and it's more often than not connected to, it's not necessarily connected to a cellular system. Today, most of our data is in the cloud. What we want is the ability to fetch that content using a high-speed, low-latency link. In that sense, one doesn't even care whether the actual content is in the device or whether it's located somewhere in the cloud. We need that wireless tether between the device and the cloud. It brings in all sorts of applications ranging from the mobility, a typical business user, for example, who's always on the go. It doesn't matter where the data is located, it's usually in the cloud, and you can fetch it in a much faster manner. And it brings in the necessity to have that high-speed, low-latency link. That's what 5G brings to the table. It's an emerging use case which has been talked about quite a lot, but with that high capacity, high data rate and low latency 5G link, we can actually truly unleash this into the user space. The other one is XR. As we talk about AR and VR applications, there is an increasing need for a combination of both high speed and low latency, bringing in cutting edge AR applications and VR applications, volumetric video, and all the XR, the collaborative use cases that we talked about. It also includes VR applications where you have two users who are actually simply rendering each other in a certain way, and you get a far more immersive VR experience based upon that. So 5G in that sense enables a larger number of new user applications. Now, how did we get to this point in time over the last 3 years? It was just about a decade back, about this time, 2009 time frame, that we were transitioning from 3G to 4G. It seemed pretty complicated back then. 3G used to be in the order of, if you recall 3G HSPA, back then it used to be about 10 megabits per second. 3G EVDO used to be maybe over 2 to 3 megabits per second, not a whole lot. And we were going from there to 100 megabits per second. It seemed quite a bit. But if you actually think through today, we had to do just FTD, all the deployments in the beginning were FTD, just 10 megahertz. There were only so many players in the ecosystem, all within the mobile ecosystem. We all know each other very well. Few operators, few vendors, few OEMs, and just in a few cities. It seemed complicated back then, but when you think about where we are today, this is where we were. When it comes to 5G, oh no, it's a lot more than that. We have TDD and FTD. We have bandwidth that goes anywhere from 100 megahertz to even 800 megahertz in millimeter wave. In the below 6 gigahertz bands, we are looking at bandwidths all the way from 20 megahertz to 100 megahertz, possibly even more. Millimeter wave and sub-6 bands, multiple cities, the entire world in terms of the global traction for this, North America, Europe, Korea, Australia, Japan and China, global rollout, more than 20 OEMs, more than 20 operators. Oh, one more thing. Don't forget that LTE, because all of this is based upon that gigabit LTE that we are talking of with 4G. All of it in 1 year. That's what this is the action that we are talking of in 2019. It's a completely different ballgame compared to where we were back in 2009, 2010 timeframe when we started with 4G. That's what our Snapdragon 855 platform is designed for, to enable a massive at-scale deployment of 5G in a global manner, spanning all the bands, while making sure that we keep increasing what we can do with 4G as well. That's what we are looking at over here. Speaking of global traction, we're not going to name everyone in this slide, but if you take a look at the large number of global mobile operators, some of our partners, we are very thankful to them that they joined us on stage. You saw that from different regions, from Australia to Europe to North America, you saw that. And a lot of the OEMs, you saw one yesterday and one today, but a large number of OEMs and mobile operators. We are very thankful to everyone with whom we are working, and there are many more to come as we go about doing this over the next few months. So, once again, welcome to the era of multi-gigabit connectivity. Thanks, everyone. Thanks. Go.
Hand off. Thank you, Durga, for the overview on connectivity and 5G. I really think 5G is going to be a breakthrough technology. So while I'm going to talk about the performance of the rest of the chip, it reminds me that connectivity is what defines the smartphone experience. But you have to do something with all that data once it's on your phone. So let's take a look at the Snapdragon 855 processing performance. But first, let's jump back just 5 years. So Keith talked about 10 years on the connectivity side. But on some of the feature side, if you just go back 5 years, some of you are probably okay with a 5-year-old laptop. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a few of you out there with that right now. And you're probably okay with that. But I doubt that anyone's okay with a 5-year-old phone. You want the better battery life? Or you want the faster connectivity, the better camera, or the edge-to-edge displays? Some of you might be excited about the removal of the headphone jack. I'm on the fence about that one. I'm not enjoying the dongle life. But what about the software and apps? 5 years ago, apps were simpler. We've transformed how people have consumed media over the past several years. We've gone from having local MP3 files stored on your phone to streaming the entire world's music collection on demand. We've gone from looking at a few clips of YouTube to people regularly watching movies from Netflix, streaming either waiting at the airport or sitting in the park. We've gone from a curated photo gallery on your phone to effectively having your entire photo gallery synced between the cloud and your phone all the time. Video chat is now an everyday reality. And we're now capturing 4K HDR videos. Console-level games are now being ported to phones. XR is no longer something that's tethered to a desktop workstation. And the search bar that you used to type your queries into has now been replaced by a voice assistant. How did we do this so fast, all in a phone? Qualcomm continually innovates to create chips for the wireless world. That means in addition to great connectivity, we create the processors that do the work on all the data that's coming into your phone. Because these processors, there we go. Because these processors are designed for, bear with me. It's jumping back and forth. Must be an Intel processor. Because these processors are designed for mobile, they must balance power and performance. This mobile philosophy of efficiency delivers great sustained performance, better thermals, and long battery life. Let's talk about how we did this with the Snapdragon 855. So 7 nanometer helps. We're now shipping in 7 nanometer. We beat laptops that's in nanometer, and now we're in 7, and they're still stuck on 14. This gives more headroom to integrate more features. It gives you better battery life. But our mobile chips also have advanced architectures. We have dedicated hardware for things like camera and video. Most of this hardware is custom designed by Qualcomm. Combining these things together allows us to deliver all these software experiences in a phone. So let's talk about 3 of the biggest of these cores: the CPU, the GPU, and the DSP. I'll get right to it. Snapdragon 855 delivers a 45% faster CPU and a 20% faster GPU than Snapdragon 845. This is a huge performance increase for Snapdragon. Thank you. Let's start with our Adreno GPU. It's a Qualcomm custom design. Not many can claim to design their own GPU. It's key to Snapdragon's power efficiency in gaming and in XR. Adreno is the most efficient GPU for sustained high-performance gaming. This efficiency is enabled by features like an integrated microcontroller for power management and highly efficient drivers for less CPU and SoC power overhead. Adreno also leads in graphics features, such as Vulkan 1.1, a first for mobile. Vulkan allows you to program down to the lowest layers of hardware to extract every last bit of performance. Let's take a look at what all this means. Here we're going to look at a common graphics benchmark running on Snapdragon 855 and competitor 7 nanometer mobile parts. One looks great the first time you run it, but after 5 minutes, things look a little different. What started out looking like great performance turns out to be less than expected. And what about the other competitor? It turns out their sustained performance is only catching up with Snapdragon 845. Snapdragon delivers the best sustained performance for gaming. All right, let's talk about our CPU. With Cryo 45, we're introducing the concept of Prime Core. Our balance of performance and power on the CPU goes all the way back to Snapdragon 800, where we had the concept of ASMP. It allowed you to run the clocks at different frequencies to save power. Big. LITTLE was an evolution of that and introduced the concept of heterogeneous CPU microarchitectures. Prime Core continues to evolve this concept. We now have a dedicated high-performance core with its own clock. The Cryo 45 Prime Core runs at up to 2.8 gigahertz, a 45% performance increase. It's been turbocharged for faster app launch and better web browsing performance. There are also 3 performance cores and 4 efficiency cores. The Prime Core and the performance cores leverage the Cortex A76 as a baseline and add Qualcomm customizations for higher performance, such as a larger out-of-order execution window and optimized data prefetching for better memory efficiency. This CPU is a beast. In fact, it's the largest performance increase ever in a Snapdragon for CPU. If you go all the way back to 2013, it's like adding an entire Snapdragon 800 CPU performance on top of last year's Snapdragon 845. So what can you do with it? This is a comparison with other 7 nanometer mobile phone processors. we're looking at app launch performance of the most frequently used apps out there. Many of you have probably used these apps this morning, and in fact, some of you might even be using them right now as I'm speaking. The Snapdragon 855 is the fastest processor on the apps you care about. But it's also power efficient. Let's look at what happens when we combine our Cryo CPU with our Adreno GPU. Here's another comparison versus 7 nanometer competitors. You can see one of the competitors manages to score very high the first time out, but about 5 to 6 minutes in, the story changes considerably. Cryo plus Adreno hit the sweet spot of performance and power efficiency for sustained performance. Next up is our Hexagon 690 processor. It's Qualcomm designed. We've shipped over 10 billion of these processors. That's a lot of software and a lot of applications and a very established ecosystem. Hexagon is what our partners use to create differentiating features on camera, video, audio, and XR. Hexagon is a powerful combination of classic DSP and AI processing. You can do it all on one processor. It's also secure, so partners don't have to worry about losing their IP. And it keeps personal data, like biometrics, secure when running applications such as face authentication. What's new on the Hexagon 690? First up, the base scalar performance of the DSP, of our quad-threaded DSP, is up by 20%. We've also doubled the number of vector extensions from 2 to 4. These have been the workhorse for image processing and AI on Hexagon. But we have even bigger news. We now have added a Hexagon Tensor Accelerator. This new accelerator is Qualcomm designed and it's dedicated to AI. It has integrated nonlinear functions such as sigmoid and ReLU, and it is designed for multidimensional math that is commonly used in neural networks. So what's multidimensional math? Hopefully some of you remember from last year that vector math is the foundation of deep learning. Previously on Hexagon, we broke down higher order tensors into vectors for multiplication in software. The new Tensor Accelerator now automatically manages these types of matrix multiplications in hardware. In fact, it can compute complete neural network layers rather than do one operation at a time. This new Hexagon Tensor Accelerator will give a huge jump to Snapdragon AI capability when combined with our Hexagon vector extensions. But speaking of AI, that's actually a good segue to our next presentation. But before I go, let's recap. Snapdragon 855 delivers a 45% higher performance CPU, the biggest leap ever for Snapdragon. Our Adreno GPU delivers a 20% performance increase with energy-leading energy efficiency and the first to market with Vulkan 1.1. And our Hexagon processor has doubled the vector extensions and added a new Tensor Accelerator dedicated to AI acceleration. I'm now going to hand things over to Gary. And he's going to tell you about how CPU, GPU, and DSP combine together to give industry-leading AI experiences. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much. All right. Wow, look at this crowd. This is awesome. I'd ask you guys how you're doing, but I know the answer would be you're doing great, because I'm doing great, because we're in Maui and we're going to talk about AI. When I was on the plane coming here today, or a couple of days ago, there was a form that we got from the Department of Agriculture that asked you, how many times have you been to Hawaii? And I had one option, which was 10 plus times. And I realized I have come to this place since I was in high school. And I proposed to my wife here. We came here for our honeymoon. I've come on numerous family vacations. And the reason why is that it's familiar, it's consistent. And from an evolutionary standpoint, everything progresses at nature's pace. Very comfortable. Which is actually in stark contrast to what we're going to talk about for the next 20 minutes, which is AI. And AI, the world of AI, technology, business, what have you, is moving at light speed. In fact, in the last 12 months, in the world of healthcare, AI is now able to determine or detect heart disease better than doctors. And in agriculture, farmers are able to increase crop yields and minimize the amount of pesticides that they put into the ground, all because of AI. And if you ask an economist today, what is the impact that AI will have on the global economy in the next decade, they would estimate that $16 trillion, more than $16 trillion, will be infused into the global economy thanks to AI. So with all of this, it feels like AI is happening at light speed, evolving at light speed. So while we're on the topic of evolution, this is a common metaphor in AI, the brain, the human brain. And for very good reason. The human brain is comprised of many different regions, and each region performs a specific function. But ultimately, the goal is to rival the intelligence and processing power of the human brain. You have a region for speech, a region for facial recognition and hearing and vision, individual sensory sections or regions, all working together in concert to make you and I the intelligent human beings that we are. Now, if you look at the human brain compared to the smartphone chip, the modern brain today is about 300,000 years old, or 300,000 years in the making, and it is a highly efficient engine. It has the perfect balance of power and performance to deliver intelligence. But evolution's slow. Knowledge isn't carried forward. A new brain enters the world, a new human enters the world, and they learn how to adapt and how to interact with the environment. Every generation, a complete restart, for the most part. But with the smartphone chip, in just the last 12 years, we've made great strides in power and performance and intelligence. Evolution has been extremely brisk because knowledge is passed on from generation to generation. We carry that knowledge forward, and we're really moving pretty fast. But the smartphone chip still has a ways to go. Now, a key factor here is if we want to continue to accelerate that, modeling the design of the chip after the human brain, with all cores working together, as opposed to some that would have you believe that a single core strategy is the right way to deliver intelligence, is the best strategy for enabling on-device AI and more rapidly evolving intelligence in the smartphone chip. So let me share a little bit with you about what we've done in Snapdragon 855 to increase that intelligence. Now, Travis had covered some of this, but I'm going to go into a few details, and then we're going to talk about how that's applied and the performance that you get. So if you have AI features like super resolution that use generative networks that demand really high precision or higher precision, they'll run faster on Adreno thanks to a 50% increase in arithmetic logic units. So we have more optimizations as well to further accelerate full and half precision networks. And with Hexagon, the Hexagon family has dramatically improved in terms of performance. We've doubled the number of vector extensions, as Travis had mentioned. We went from 2 to 4, and we've added a new dedicated tensor accelerator. This offers developers the best of both worlds: highly efficient, programmable, and dedicated AI acceleration for accelerating AI features that demand the highest performance at a very low power. And when the CPU is the go-to for AI inference, we've added support for new dot product instructions in Cryo. This provides a significant performance boost when the CPU is needed. All total, every core in Snapdragon 855 has been upgraded or optimized to deliver industry-leading heterogeneous AI hardware acceleration. And these cores form the backbone of our 4th generation AI engine. It's more than one core, it's more than hardware, it's a complete system. This new engine offers broader neural network support and optimizations for popular frameworks like TensorFlow and PyTorch and interchange formats like Onyx. We've optimized runtimes like our neural processing engine, and we've invested heavily in Google's neural network API, so that you can get the best acceleration from all of our cores through that API. And we have lower level libraries for increased flexibility and customization in the form of Hexagon NN and Qualcomm math libraries. We made a very big investment in software, with ongoing optimizations added for new operators and new neural network types, and will continue to add in the weeks and months to come. And all of this is supported by the foundation of hardware enhancements and an expansion that delivers a capacity of more than 7 trillion operations per second. And when it comes to raw AI performance, Snapdragon 855 is 3 times more performant than Snapdragon 845. And as Alex so eloquently put it yesterday, we're 2x the performance of our 7-nanometer Android-based competitors. So, how is this all being used? Who is using this performance? Who is taking advantage of this? Who are we helping to drive this market forward? Well, we work with a handful, actually I shouldn't say handful, I'd say dozens, of innovative AI developers. And one of which I'm going to bring onto the stage is somebody that we have, or a company that we have a very deep AI relationship with. We've been working with Google to advance TensorFlow in mobile. In fact, we were the first company or first SoC manufacturer to support TensorFlow in Snapdragon 835. And over the past year, as I mentioned, we've been heavily invested in Google's NN API, so that if you're a developer in the Android world, you have that interface, the NN API, to be able to execute a neural network on the accelerators that are compatible, all of which are compatible in Snapdragon. And we've recently collaborated with Google to accelerate on-device AI in their Google Lens product. It's been a great relationship. So, what I'd like to do, instead of you hearing me drone on, is to bring Eddie Chung and Rajan Patel from Google up on stage to share with you how we've worked together to make Google Lens highly efficient and performant on Snapdragon 855. Eddie, thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Hey everyone, my name's Eddie Chung from Google's augmented reality team. 2019 is going to be a pivotal year with AI accelerators and 5G both coming to market through the Snapdragon 855. We partnered closely with Qualcomm to bring this technology into Google Lens, and we're excited to be here today to talk more about that. Now first, what is Google Lens? Today, your phone's camera is used mostly to capture memories. What it doesn't do is help you understand and interact with the world around you. And that's exactly where Google can help with our depth and breadth of knowledge. Lens helps brings Google's knowledge and intelligence directly into your phone's camera. Lens helps where words often fail us, like shopping for a particular style, things where it's often difficult to describe in words, or perhaps impossible. Lens also helps accelerate common tasks, like capturing text from the real world, helping blur digital and real. Now, all of this relies on computer vision, and we've worked with Qualcomm to bring our vision algorithms from the cloud to on-device. And this helps in a number of different ways. One, it reduces latency significantly because there are no server round trips. Two, it improves accuracy because we don't need to compress images before sending them to the cloud, which results in a loss of fidelity. And finally, three, this approach is inherently scalable since compute is distributed across the phones themselves. Now, the first use case we brought completely on device is text recognition. The reason we did this is, well, text is all around us, whether it's a phone number on a flyer, business card information that you want to capture, or maybe it's a street sign with foreign language that you need help translating. We're building a camera that can read, which is hugely powerful and a big focus area for Google. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Rajan to talk a bit more about how this all works.
All right. Oops. All right, where are we going here? It turns out that text recognition is pretty hard. The neural net has to extract fine-grained details from millions of pixels across a wide variety of fonts and languages. This wouldn't be possible without Qualcomm's AI engine, which has helped us reduce end-to-end latency by a factor of 3 and energy by a factor of almost 4 compared to the CPU alone. And thanks to Android's neural network API, we're able to scale this technology across Android, achieving the same performance without any further integration or optimization. With the Snapdragon 855, this is able to turn your phone's camera from a tool to capture memories to a window into the world around you. But it's not just about text. Computer vision helps us understand objects and scenes and connect that understanding to billions of places, products, and things that Google understands. An example of one way we'll take advantage of 5G is something we're calling AR autocomplete. The viewfinder in this demo understands what it's seeing through computer vision and then auto-completes the scene with assets it downloads on the fly. Some of these assets, like this Williams-Sonoma couch, are 100 megabytes. So having a high bandwidth, low latency connection is critical to enabling the best and most immersive user experiences. On behalf of Google, thank you, Qualcomm, for this amazing partnership, advancing the state-of-the-art for augmented reality together.
Thank you. Rajan, Eddie, thank you very much, and thank you, Google, for this awesome AI partnership. Now, as we move along in the animation, there we go. So over the past year, our AI engine has been used and leveraged by industry-leading developers like SenseTime and Face++ and Elliptic Labs and ThunderCom, all of whom are stretching the boundaries of on-device AI and mobile. But we've expanded this ecosystem with Snapdragon 855. We have more experts in AI vision like ArcSoft, AnyVision, and Nalby, and specialists in AI audio like AI Speech, iFlyTech, and Elevoc. All are delivering a larger selection of pre-optimized algorithms for new AI experiences on device that are designed by our customers. The combination of the AI engine, our 4th generation AI engine, and partner expertise results in some really awesome user experiences. So what I'd like to share with you are a handful of these. These are highlights, there's many more to come, but I think you'll find these pretty interesting. Let's start with a little video.
Hi.
I'm calling you with the noise reduction algorithm. Yeah, I know.
What do you think?
Hey, reduction algorithm turned on. And can I just say, it's just amazing, like you could be in an airport or a stadium or any crowded area. It's amazing that you could use this in an airport or in a stadium or some other environment. So, if you understand me loud and clear, give me a thumbs up.
Quite clear.
Oh, that's wonderful. All right, thank you.
All right. So, thank you, Elevok, actually. So, you've just experienced a noise-free voice over IP call, which is made possible by our 4th generation engine, AI engine, and our partner Elevok. Elevok's VOC Plus Telecom can precisely extract your voice from background noise. And what's amazing about this is that it only requires one microphone. You get much greater accuracy than traditional methods today that use multiple microphones, all through the power of AI. So whether you're at a sports event or a house party or a music festival or just hanging out at the grotto at the Grand Wailea pool, you'll get exceptional voice quality and clarity in the loudest of environments in Snapdragon 855. So if you're like most people, if you try to buy clothing online or you want to change your hairstyle or your hair color, it's a pretty risky proposition, especially when you're changing how you look. You can't really tell how any of it's going to look until after you take the plunge. Until now, things like changing your hair color could only be done with very simple masks, very crude, non-detailed, very coarse overlays that don't really give you that real effect. Well, we've worked with a company called Nowbe, who has real-time video segmentation algorithms that are running in our AI engine, so you can see exactly how that new hair color looks before taking the plunge. It extracts areas of interest in every frame with super fine precision. Every strand in motion, even the highlights as the lighting changes. More than 30 frames per second, exceptional precision, and no regrets. That's pretty cool. It blew my mind the first time I saw it, and it still does every time I watch it. So you've seen bokeh effects and portrait mode in a camera, but you haven't seen a single image depth like this. Nowbe's single image depth technology applies DSLR-like bokeh effects to any picture, even those taken from other devices or downloaded from the internet. No depth from stereo or 3D camera sensors needed. You can adjust the blur as much as you want or as little as you want. And you can focus on one person or object or food. Wherever you touch, you can get that effect, all with a single image. And like most people, I take a whole lot of pictures with my phone, probably more than I want to admit. But the end result with so many of them are, low quality, or at least not the quality that I demand. And many times, my sushi pictures, which is really, I think some of you know my thing about sushi. In fact, I think there are at least 4 of you out there that have this same problem. Pictures don't always come out clear. They're blurry, they're off balance. Well, our partner SenseTime, who's a leader in vision-centric AI, is helping us solve the problem with super resolution. So super resolution in SenseTime's Super IQ, which is accelerated by the 16-bit network support in our AI engine, gives our customers the ability to help you and me take better pictures, much sharper pictures. Super IQ uses 8 frames of processing for more precise noise reduction, de-blur, and zoom, and the result is enhanced clarity and detail with sharp natural boundaries. So unlocking your phone is pretty much becoming commonplace by using your face, and making mobile payments is quickly becoming a reality. So we've actually collaborated with SenseTime again with the ability, and actually the first AI-based payment-grade 3D face authentication using a time-of-flight sensor, which combined with our AI engine and secure hexagon infrastructure, SenseTime can deliver robust anti-spoofing and fast, accurate face recognition so you can buy what you want when you want. And another pet peeve of mine, I have a few when it comes to when I take pictures, is a lack of clarity, especially in dark settings. And when there's lights, there's usually a whole lot of overexposure. And when it's dark, pictures are grainy, bright objects are washed out. So our long-standing partner, Rsoft, which has been a leader in computer vision and is augmenting their portfolio with state-of-the-art deep neural networks, has developed a product called SuperNight. So Rsoft's smart denoise, anti-shake, and de-ghost capabilities combine traditional computer vision and deep neural networks to bring more detail and clarity to nighttime pictures. It greatly reduces overexposure too. As you can see, you can't tell the color of the lights down below, but they're actually red, green, and blue. And SuperNight is optimized out of the box on Snapdragon 855. All of these features and so many more will be optimized and accelerated in the 4th generation AI engine in Snapdragon 855. Now, our closest competitor, our closest Android-based 7 nanometer competitor, will have you believe that on-device AI will only flourish with a single core strategy and a narrow, closed ecosystem. The right strategy, and the one that Qualcomm has embraced for 4 generations of our silicon, is one that offers a full range of programmable and dedicated optimized hardware acceleration, a broad suite of software and tools and framework support, delivery across every major operating system, and partnerships with industry-leading AI developers and cloud providers, all of whom are delivering the compelling user experiences to our customers and in markets powered by Snapdragon. So, wrapping up, Qualcomm is taking AI on device into the future with our 4th generation AI engine, a capacity, again, of 7 trillion operations per second, 3 times the performance of our prior generation Snapdragon 845, and AI experiences built for the future. Snapdragon is an AI powerhouse. And on that, mahalo. Okay. Thank you. All right, I want to bring up Judd Heap, Senior Director of Product Management and our resident imaging guru, to share with you more about our camera and imaging on Snapdragon 855. Thank you again. Have a good one.
Thank you. Everybody, I think I have the coolest job at Qualcomm because I get to work on camera. It's the way that we document our lives and share. And I'm really excited today to share with you what we've done on camera on 855. So, a lot of you probably brought cameras with you to Hawaii, but my guess is that not a lot of them look like this. The digital SLR, or digital single lens reflex camera, was the way that we got really good pictures before. But before we started to use our smartphones. And you don't have to lug these big cameras around anymore. And that's because the ISP that we have in the Qualcomm device rivals the image quality that you can get on a DSLR. But what we have on the Qualcomm device, like the 845, has so much more in it. It has the DSP, the CPU, and the GPU, which gives you the ability to have more and more features. We can develop more and more features that you just can't have on a digital SLR. A few of these are here. So, for example, night shots. Having a really great night shot without grain or noise. We have multi-frame noise reduction, which gets rid of this, and you have perfectly beautiful skies without any noise. Also, the ability to do 4K HDR videos, which are absolutely beautiful. You can capture these in real time. And something that's more new is the ability for the camera to have 3 separate cameras for 3 different fields of view, so that you can do a wide, ultra-wide, and telephoto shot without having to have a huge zoom lens in your pocket, which of course won't fit. We can also do XR type of applications on the smartphone now. So you heard a lot about Google Lens earlier. So if you find the girl in the laundromat and you want to know exactly where she got those boots, you can actually find that out. Or if you're a gamer and you wear an XR headset, 6 degrees of freedom body tracking and room scale tracking is available on the smartphone now with multiple cameras. It takes a huge amount of processing power, also that we don't run into walls. So let's take a journey inside of a camera. So the things that you shoot, the light bounces off of them and goes through the lens array, and then goes into the image sensor. The image sensor is connected to the Snapdragon Spectra 380 ISP. And the Spectra 380 ISP opens an image pipe, and that image pipe is connected to the color image sensor to give you great looking color images. Now, we also have other things on chip, like you've heard about earlier today, the CPU, the DSP, and the GPU. And typically we fire those cores up as well, and we start a new image pipeline, which might be to a depth sensor. And that pipeline gets what looks like a black and white image, but in reality it's really a depth map. And with the depth map, we can do really interesting things like determine what's in the background and what's in the foreground, like a person. And so what you can do from there to make images look even more great, you can combine these together to actually get a depth map plus a color photo to get a really great looking portrait photo or bokeh effect. Now, all of the things we do in the CPU, the CPU, DSP, and GPU are really great and really help the camera out. So for the first time, what we're doing is we're actually moving the computer vision and computational photography functions of these cores and putting them in the hardware ISP. So I'd like to announce for the first time ever that we have the world's first computer vision or CV-based ISP. Thank you. And that really brings along with it a couple of really cool things. The first is an extreme speed boost. I'll talk about that a little bit later, but we can do a lot of stuff much faster than we did before. Also, a lot of power savings, 4x power savings on some of these functions that normally would be in a programmable core. Now that they're hardened in hardware, they consume much less power. And that's true for a bunch of different computer vision type of workloads. So now that we have all of this available to us in the new Spectra 380 ISP, we can open a new image pipe, which is not just color. It is actually color plus computer vision information. And so now that these things are hardened in hardware, we can do things now like depth sensing at 60 frames per second. And 60 frames per second is unique, it's video. So what that means is that now, for the first time ever, we can do 4K HDR video with portrait mode or video bokeh. So you'll see some images, you'll see some videos that I've got here running through. Another interesting thing about this is since we're doing this in hardware, it doesn't matter if your camera or your subject is moving. We can still do the depth sensing and get very accurate depth map and bokeh here, even with moving images, which is quite unique. I'd like to thank ArcSoft for helping us with these videos. Also, with this image pipe, we can do other interesting things like I talked about segmentation before. And again, we can discern the difference between the background and the foreground. In this case, a background wall and a person. Now, what we can also do is do real-time object replacement. So if you don't particularly like this green background, you can replace it with something different. So you could fade it away and make it black and white, and still have your foreground or your person be in color. Or if you don't like that at all, you can change the background to something completely different to be more interesting. And again, all of this is enabled by the hardware in the computer vision ISP. Now, again, because we put all this in hardware, that really means something pretty important to the AI engine, which Gary talked about before. I talked about moving some of these things out of here and offloading this engine. What that means is that this engine now has the ability to do other things that it couldn't do before in cooperation with camera. And so there's something in the movie industry called a cinematograph. And a cinematograph is the ability to take a video or movie and freeze part of it so that it's stationary, whereas the rest of it keeps moving. And this is done in movie making, but it has to be done manually by the director. So he has to pick exactly, what stays still and what is moving. But with the AI engine on Snapdragon, with the touch of a button, I can just touch on the person and they stay still while the rest of the image keeps going. So I'd like to talk about power savings as well. We're adding all this functionality, but we also wanted to make sure that we didn't let the power run away at the same time. So the power savings now in computer vision is quite unique. I mentioned we moved a lot of things to hardware, and because we did that, we can actually save power quite a bit. So if you look at 3 different use cases, like 6 degree of freedom body tracking for XR, object tracking, or even just basic object detection, they're all low power. So these are our targets on 855 to be 2x or 4x lower in power consumption than before. Now, also about object detection as a metric. If we were to do object detection on 1080p video in the DSP versus what we're able to do now in the CV ISP, we can actually do that 11 times faster than before. So getting 1080p 60 or even 4K 30 is really no problem for object detection now. So all of this also needs to be saved. You've got to be able to save your images, save your files, and share them. We've used an image file format for a long time called JPEG. I think it's been more than 2 decades now we've used JPEG. And JPEG was great at saving still images, photographs. And it, over time, was, a little bit of modification was done to it, so you could save some metadata, like you could save the time and date of the photo, you could save where the photo was taken, and even you could save a little bit about what the camera was doing at that time, like exposure. But what it didn't do is it didn't allow you to save information about computer vision, or it didn't have the ability to do HDR images, and much less it couldn't do video plus images at the same time. So what's really needed here is a new image format. And so I'd like to introduce today that we are on Snapdragon 855 going to support HEIF, or the high efficiency image file format. And for the first time on 855, this is accelerated both for encode and decode in hardware. Now, you may have heard some of our competitors talking about HEIF. We're not the first to talk about this. But the problem is that our competitors are really just using it to reduce file size. And that's like the least interesting thing about this file format. Really, HEIF is a huge file container, and you can do so much more with it. So on 855, we'll be supporting this going forward. On future devices, we'll be supporting all of these different features for the file format. Thank you. So let's talk about some of the things you could do with this. So, everyone knows my esteemed colleague, PJ, right? He's looking good here. PJ on a ski trip. So if PJ wants to go back and edit this photo later to do something more interesting, maybe make a portrait photo, he'll need the depth map. And what he wants to do is take that depth map to create a portrait mode photo, which has a really nice looking bokeh effect. Because we have the ability now to have all this in one file in the HEIF container, he can do this without having to search for different files to merge together. Now, the other thing is that PJ might want to use this to get a date. He's a mama's boy, and he loves to ski. But PJ is not my type, so I'm going to swipe left and move on. So in keeping with the PJ on a ski trip theme, PJ can take great photos while he's on his trip. And again, if he wants to share these photos, he'd have to share them one by one. But with the HEIF format, he can actually share in the same file container a photo plus a video, or multiple photos plus a video. Or even for burst photography, say if he wanted to go over a ski jump and show that, he could share all of the burst photos from the one sequence also in one file. So posting this becomes a lot easier because it's all just one file. Also, I mentioned before about the fact that you have the ability now to have a smartphone with 3 cameras, with 3 fields of view, a wide, ultra-wide, and telephoto. Cameras now will take those pictures simultaneously, but today they're saved as separate files. So with the HEIF format, all of these can end up in a single file. So you don't have to choose later on which one you want. Talking about video, 4K HDR capture. We introduced this in 845. We're now on our 2nd generation of 4K HDR video capture. So we're able to capture over 1 billion shades of color. I'll point out that our competitors, some of them aren't even doing 4K at all yet. They're still on 1080p. And there's one really noted competitor that's doing 4K but hasn't introduced anything about HDR capture for video. And so now we're on our 2nd generation. But I have another announcement. Today I would like to announce that for the first time on a mobile device, we'll be supporting HDR10+. And we have one OEM in 2019 that will bring this to market. Thanks. And HDR10+ is pretty unique. I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but it makes HDR much more true to life. What happens with HDR10+ is that it saves metadata in real time as you're shooting the video, so that it understands the scene, the lighting in the scene, so that now your bright detail is preserved and your dark detail has much more detail. So it just makes HDR much more true to life. So I'd also like to talk about power savings in 4K video capture as well. So on Snapdragon 800, several generations ago, was our first time to release 4K at 30 frames per second video recording. Now, I have a little bit of a story to tell here. I was not at Qualcomm at that time. I was with another small company doing some imaging type of related work. But we were working with Qualcomm at the time on some display technology. And we would have conference calls with Qualcomm, with my engineering team, and we would talk about deliverables and quality and things like that. But Qualcomm was absolutely obsessed with power consumption, and it drove me crazy. We had daily conference calls to talk about what our algorithm was doing on every single clock cycle, because Qualcomm wanted to make sure it was the lowest and lowest of power. But it's actually a really good thing, because that means that on our next generation device, on 855, not only are we able to also do 4K at 60 frames per second, HDR and portrait mode video bokeh, but we're 3 times lower than we were when we first introduced this technology on 800. And, just so you can reference it against our previous generation on 845, we're 30% lower power for this use case than 845. So in closing, here's all the features on the Snapdragon Spectra 380 ISP. We have some demos set up next door that show a lot of these features. Please check them out. There's one demo in particular that looks really excellent. It's the video HDR demo. It's actually a video clip that we've actually captured on a smartphone device. You won't believe it's from a smartphone device. It's really amazing. So thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your time here. I would like to now bring up Hiran Binde, who leads our product management for XR, and he's going to talk to you about everything entertainment on Snapdragon. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Thank you. Aloha, everyone. How's everybody doing? All right. How's everybody doing? There you go. I know we're running slightly over time, but we wanted to save some awesomeness for the last as well. Entertainment. Somebody just asked me an hour ago, hey, we've been hearing that there's going to be entertainment as a pillar. Why entertainment? Think about it. Smartphones are no longer just a communications or a connectivity device. They are the de facto entertainment device. We watch our favorite shows on our smartphones. We do a lot of mobile gaming on our smartphones. And social media, which is all about human connections, is also becoming the latest form of entertainment. I mean, just following what your loved ones are doing, or some people that you admire, some industry leaders, or some favorite celebrities, it's all becoming a source of entertainment. So this is where everything comes together. You've heard so far, Travis told you about the awesome CPU, the awesome GPU that we have. Gary told you about the 4th generation AI engine, and that you just heard about the world's first mobile CV ISP. How does everything come together? That's where entertainment comes in as a pillar. When we think of entertainment at Qualcomm, we usually think of it in 3 categories. There's mobile gaming, there's shows that we like to watch, that's all cinematic experience right here on mobile, and last but not the least is XR. Some of you might ask, but isn't XR like devices? It is, but it's going to change how entertainment and the entertainment industry is as you perceive today. And we'd like to talk to you about that towards the later part of the presentation. Let's start with the first part, mobile gaming. If you're like me, you were introduced to mobile gaming with console-based gaming. I grew up playing Super Mario and Contra and Pac-Man on console-based gaming many years ago. I can't share how many years ago because I don't want to share my age here on stage. But today, most people do get introduced to gaming on mobile. And mobile gaming is changing. It is trending up. And how? $140 billion is the overall gaming industry. Think about it, $140 billion. And mobile gaming is more than half of it, $70 billion. More than half of it. It's not PCs, it's not consoles, it's mobile gaming with mobiles on tablets and smartphones. That's what it's all about. Fun fact, if mobile gaming were a country, it would be the 70th richest country in the world according to the IMF. So that's how mobile gaming is increasing. Our partners realize that, Qualcomm realizes that, and right here a year ago we introduced Snapdragon 845, and 4 of our partners introduced these devices which were embraced as gaming platforms. Snapdragon 845 a year ago has been revolutionizing the mobile gaming industry. That's not where it ends though. It's just not these 4 devices. 160 plus designs were launched on Snapdragon 845, and our end consumers love those designs and are embracing it as gaming devices. The story continues further. 586 million. Think about it. Just think about this number, 586 million. That's the number of mobile gamers in China today. 586 million number of mobile gamers in China today. That's as close to twice the population of the United States. Our partners realize that, Qualcomm realizes that, and we are catering to that audience. Our partner Vivo, that launched the next device, had this big mobile gaming competition at China Joy, which is the biggest gaming show in China, and this is what it looked like. Thousands of people attended the event, and there was competition on mobile. But that's been the journey so far on gaming. What I'd like to do now is to introduce someone who'd come here and talk about how we're making leaps of progress on Snapdragon 855 for gaming. And then we'll continue the journey of entertainment. But first, Leilani Dillon, our head of marketing for XR and mobile gaming. Leilani.
Thank you, Hiran. Aloha! Oh, come on, you guys. The luau is tomorrow. You need to practice. Aloha! 'Better. You guys are ready. So I am originally from Hawaii. I was born on the neighbor island of Oahu. I have family here still. So it's really special for me to be here in Hawaii on behalf of Qualcomm to talk about mobile gaming. I thought it would be fun for you all to learn a little Hawaiian while you're here in Maui. And so the Hawaiian word of the day is oli. Can you all say that? Awesome. Now in Hawaiian, oli means joy. Now I bring that up because I truly believe that the reason people play games is simply it brings us joy. When you are playing games like Fortnite or King of Honor or even games like Candy Crush or Solitaire, every time you fight off a zombie, get to the next level, get a high score, you do a little happy dance inside, right? I know I do. As Hiran had mentioned earlier, mobile gaming revenue and popularity is rising. The era of mobile gaming is now. And technology has to rise to the occasion too. So it is my joy to introduce to you Elite Gaming on Qualcomm Snapdragon 855. Snapdragon 855 will bring elite gaming experience through unparalleled performance, cinema quality graphics, longer battery life, and because it's mobile, the freedom to game anywhere. As new and different games are created, become more advanced and more immersive, as a gamer, you want that competitive edge. You want to play longer. You want to feel like you're part of the game. And more importantly, you want to win. You will win with Snapdragon 855. Let me tell you how. First, Snapdragon 855 leverages the performance of the Adreno GPU, the 640 GPU. This is a powerhouse of a GPU. Next is a new graphics library. Today we're announcing the support of Vulkan 1.1 graphics library, a first on mobile. It gets games closer to the silicon, which means 20% lower power and advanced graphics quality. Next, physically based rendering brings an extreme level of realism with objects and environments that look lifelike in the game scenes. With a 20% performance increase, Adreno 640 can handle demanding PBR workloads with ease. This means PBR games will become more mainstream in mobile. Now this is from a game that our advanced content group at Qualcomm is creating. You can see what the game clip looks like with PBR turned on and off. It features over 30 scientific textures that react and reflect to light the way it would in the real world. Now let's talk about in-game color. Currently, games are in standard dynamic range, offering a measly 16.7 million colors. Snapdragon 855 brings you end-to-end gaming. True HDR from rendering pipeline to HDR display. Another first on mobile. This features 10-bit color depth, Rec 2020 color gamut, 64 shades more color, equating to over 1 billion shades of color. 1 billion. A key part of cinema graphics is the cinematic rendering process. Part of that is post-processing. And this adds yet another level of realism. It's similar to what Hollywood films do, creating dynamic scenes that draw you in and also creates an emotional connection. With Snapdragon 855, you'll see this more and more in gaming scenes going forward. Snapdragon Elite Gaming will bring a full arsenal of hardware and software features for smoother play, blazing fast response, incredible audio, and more. So get elite gaming performance. Own the elite gaming experience. Be an elite gamer with Snapdragon 855. Mahalo.
Thank you. Thank you, Leilani. So if you're like me who loves to play PUBG, I can tell you that Snapdragon 855 is going to be an awesome gaming platform device. So we looked at the first pillar, that was mobile gaming, and next is cinemas and video. I'd like to start with a short story here. 30-odd years ago, a small child, a little kid, 6-year-old boy, went missing in India. And his parents looked out for him for a couple of hours. They couldn't find him. And then suddenly, his mom realized, oh, I know where he is. He's not playing outside. He's probably in one of our neighbors' houses watching television. They go to that house. There he is, sitting on the floor, lost watching Bollywood songs. Why do I know that story? The kid was me. Now, this is not where the story ends. I'm sure most of you have heard the saying, the orange does not fall far away from the tree. A couple of months ago, we couldn't find my son. My wife and I looked for him. It's been an hour and a half. He's not playing outside. I tell my wife, why don't you just call our neighbors? He must be there. And my wife says I can't find my phone. And then we realized we're looking in the wrong place. There he was on the bunk bed, under the comforter, watching his favorite show, PJ Masks. Point being, yes, like father, like son, we like our shows. But point being, entertainment has been there for generations and it changes. But now, today, it's gone from the big screen to the small screen. And how? The change of industry here, if you just look at the data that's been consumed by entertainment today in the visual medium, during the peak internet hours, more than half of the traffic is consumed by sites like YouTube and Netflix. And in about 3 years, more than 70%, think about it, more than 70% of all mobile traffic is going to be consumed by video. But that's not all. Why is mobile becoming the de facto standard of visual entertainment? Think of the two kinds of devices that we have here today. You have the big screen device, which has its own advantages, but you have a 1080p and stereo sound. But here you have a design that's in your hand, mobile, with an OLED display, 2K resolution, and 7-channel surround sound system. So when we look at entertainment, and especially the visual side, we look at, or the cinematic experience, we look at what are the key pillars where we could make improvements as a part of our Snapdragon systems to help our end consumers enjoy the visual experience even more. And we know, we again put it into 3 categories. There's video or visuals, there's audio, and then of course, power. So let me just walk you through what we're doing in each of these pillars. Visuals. To introduce here cinema experience, there's going to be advanced movie features. We'll continue supporting 2nd generation HDR, and as Judd announced, world's first on-mobile HDR 10+. We also continue our support for Dolby Vision. But that's not where it ends. We will be supporting super smooth 120 FPS viewing on your mobile devices for your favorite games and video shows. On top of that, we will also be supporting ultra-sharp XR video at 8K in any 360 videos. Think about it, ultra-sharp XR 360 video in 8K. Now that's the video part. George Lucas, the pioneer of entertainment, once said that 50% of any cinematic experience is audio, 50%. So we take our audio extremely seriously. And for that, we are introducing for the first time Qualcomm aptX Adaptive in Snapdragon 855 and Qualcomm True Wireless Stereo Plus. Thank you. We've heard from our end consumers the pain that they go through when there's some latency in the audio, and Snapdragon 855 and with its aptX Adaptive and the Qualcomm True Wireless Stereo Plus takes care of these issues. We do know that some of you have called Qualcomm aptX Adaptive as the king of Bluetooth codec. And guess what? We're going to continue with our promise of ensuring that the gaming experience with the audio and the visual experience as well keeps rock solid. Next, how many of you here are fans of Games of Thrones? Seriously? Games of Thrones? Fans of Games of Thrones in the audience? All right. All right, so if there are any Lannister fans here, be careful because you're here in the house of Targaryens. We the dragons here. Well, yeah, you know, as you heard yesterday, it's the big dragon with Snapdragon 855. Alex mentioned that. So think about it. You're watching a Game of Thrones episode on your mobile device. It's late in the evening, you've had a long day at work, you're enjoying your show. There's Daenerys Targaryen walking with her 3 dragons, and as soon as she says Dracarys, your phone suddenly has an icon says power shutting down. That's what we know we don't want our end consumers to feel. We take our power extremely seriously, and for that, moving on, we are introducing hardware accelerated H.265 and VP9 support with which you'll be able to enjoy your favorite streaming channels for a longer duration of time. Some of you might ask, how does that work? Well, with hardware accelerations, power savings, specifically an example here in YouTube HDR video playback, the hardware part itself enables 7x power savings. But from an end-to-end scenario, when you add the display and the batteries, the end system itself, the experience is not only richer, but you can enjoy the experience for a longer duration of time. So you heard about video, you heard about audio, and you heard about power. We've spoken about gaming, we've spoken about visuals, cinematic experience. And now we move to the third pillar of entertainment, where we talk about the next era of entertainment. Here's one thing that I'd like you guys to think about and take you on a journey on where Qualcomm plays a major role in changing the technology industry itself. While our end, as Keith was mentioning about the decades, while our end consumers 10, 15, 20 years ago were either listening to audio and enjoying MP3 playback, we were not only ensuring that that experience as well, but we were working on the future with video streaming. When today everybody's enjoying mobile gaming and visual experience, we are also working with key partners on creating the next era of entertainment. Entertainment has changed. Entertainment started in a theater like this with people coming and watching live shows, but then entertainment came to your house on the radio, then to a television, where all your senses with your eyes and ears and your hands were all involved. But now the next era of entertainment is going to be immersive, and that's where Qualcomm's playing a big role. It's going to be with XR devices, with VR and AR. Some of you who were here last year might remember this image that we showed, this animation, on Snapdragon 845, where we spoke about how Snapdragon 845 was the best heterogeneous compute platform till date. If you guys don't remember the use case, let me walk you through it. Imagine you're playing an XR game by putting the headset on using a Snapdragon 845 device. We showed you how it was going to be a good heterogeneous compute platform. You walk into a room, you put the glasses on, it's your living room, you see your couch, your sofa, everything there, and then it maps the room and then it translates it to any other virtual world that you like. But Snapdragon 855 takes it a step further. Not only is the heterogeneous compute stronger and better, but with the 4th generation AI engine, the fluidity of the experience becomes even nicer. The semantic segmentation, the object detection, everything that you heard from Gary in the 4th engine AI, as well as from Judd with the latest computer vision ISP, everything gets used here. And what you get is an end seamless experience, you being in a virtual world and immersed in this new kind of experience. Thank you. Now, this is how 3D reconstruction and visual entertainment comes into play. But we like to enjoy our world outside. And this is where the next use case comes into play. Imagine PJ, who loves skiing, is skiing, but at the same time as he's skiing, he wants real-time information about where he's going and getting other information that he'd like to be displayed on his glasses. That's where 5G, XR, AI all comes into play. You've heard Keith talk about 5G, XR, AI. This is how it's going to be used. This is exactly the glimpse into the future that Cristiano was talking about. This is the tip of the iceberg, and this is the beginning of the next decade of entertainment. And we are just going to see how it becomes even better. Last but not the least, Snapdragon XR is going to have a new kind of entertainment platform today. Imagine having a Snapdragon 855 device with 5G and wearing lightweight XR glasses connected, tethered to the phone and live streaming events. It might be NBA match, it might be your favorite concert. Live streaming that on these devices is something that we see coming as the next generation of entertainment. I would like to call upon stage a close partner with whom we've been working in enhancing this platform, in pushing the boundaries of this industry, and these guys have been revolutionizing immersive entertainment in a completely different paradigm. I'd like to invite David Cole to come and sum up the entertainment section, who's the CEO and founder of Next VR. But before Dave comes on stage, we'd like you to see a short video, a small glimpse into the future, the tip of the iceberg. Thank you, everyone.
People right there, how you guys doing out there in cartoon world? Bounce past the head here for Draymond Green, and he throws it down.
Here's a question. Do you believe you can change the world?
Hi, everybody. I'm Dave Cole, CEO of NextVR. We're excited to be here today to represent our continuing partnership with Qualcomm. NextVR is bringing the world the best possible capture and transmission of reality in perfect fidelity. We're available on all major virtual reality platforms, with augmented reality coming very soon. Fans all over the world have experienced NextVR content, featuring world-class partners such as the NBA, NFL, Live Nation, Fox Sports, and more. NextVR is the world's largest broadcaster of virtual reality content. We've aired over 470 VR productions, and our viewers have experienced more than 8.5 million minutes of our programming. Unlike passively watching on TV, our NextVR transports our viewers to the best seats in the house, or in many cases to seats like this that you can't even buy. The experience is in many ways like really being at the event, or sometimes even better. NextVR's volumetric capture technology builds very precise maps of reality in real time. This allows us to accurately represent the world to our viewers and deliver a profound sense of being present, or actually where the camera is. This technology is our secret sauce, and it allows us to differentiate our broadcast from our competition, and it cements our value proposition with our viewers. But our industry is nearing an inflection point. It's the moment where the viewer suspends disbelief and becomes present in the experience. At the cross-section of this inflection point are resolution and bandwidth. These two factors work together to elevate the delivered immersive experience to a quality high enough for the viewer to accept it as actual reality. But in order to do this, we have to blow through the bandwidth bottleneck that currently exists, and the key to this is 5G. NextVR is sending VR pictures, graphics, spatial audio, and 3D geometry down one 8 megabit per second pipe. But with 5G's multi-gigabit mobile speeds providing every user with at least 100 megabits per second, VR transmissions will approach the audio-visual quality of actually being present at the event. With soon-to-be-released very high-resolution VR headsets, and with the ever-increasing power of Snapdragon to render complex virtual content, and 5G's bandwidth, tomorrow's VR will be more real, more immersive, and available anywhere that you can receive a cell signal. But why does VR need all this? Virtual reality is the least forgiving medium ever created. Magnifying glasses in the headsets cause even the smallest flaw in playback to disrupt you from feeling immersed. This is our current broadcast at 60 frames per second, and it looks pretty good. But I want to pause to point out a few things that we want to perfectly recreate. Notice the lack of resolution at 4G bandwidth. But at 5G, you can see how much sharper the image is. In 4G, you can tell this is a human being, but at 5G, you can actually recognize the player. At 4G, there's occasional motion blur in fast action. But at 5G, the motion is crisper and definition is much sharper. With 5G, the power of Snapdragon, and soon-to-be-released high-resolution VR headsets, our fans will be able to see our content as clearly as they see the real world. Another element to recreating reality and immersive content is the freedom to move around in 6 degrees, or 6-off in the industry parlance. Soon you'll be able to move forward and backward, in and through, and actually get up and walk around in live video content. What you'll be able to see and see around in immersive video will further convince your brain that you're really there. But we're not stopping there. While we've been busy delivering the best possible VR experiences at NextVR, we've also been hard at work in the lab on the next frontier, augmented reality. With VR, we're transporting you to the sidelines of the game. With AR, we're bringing the game into your home. Our volumetric capture pipeline will allow you to literally project the entire playing field, viewable with AR glasses, onto any flat surface you want. Here's a look at an early prototype. But the ultimate realization of NextVR's content will be on devices that are both AR and VR, or to be more precise, when that distinction goes away. Imagine a day when your virtual and real worlds collide, when one is mixed with the other thoughtfully, and when the lines between the real world and the virtual world blur at your command in the comfort of your home. I'd like to leave you with a provocative closing thought. The battle of the screen is over. The competition for your attention between TV and mobile phone, desktop and tablet is passé. Immersive technologies will become the mainstay, displacing old rectangular physical displays with higher resolution, immersive visual experiences that will appear in your world when and where you want them. We've all seen these tipping points before, and we're at the precipice of a big one. Thank you very much.
Good job. Thank you. All right. We spent the last 2+ hours telling you about the 855. Only a few more hours to go. Just kidding. I'm sure you probably have a little tech overload now, but the main point is we've really raised the bar with the 855. We've raised the bar in connectivity with 5G. We've raised the bar on computing. Of course, the underlying message you heard all day yesterday and for the next decade for the future is this is the first 5G platform. So we're going to have the world's best connectivity, and we really do think 5G is going to change the world for the next decade. But we didn't leave LTE out, as we nearly doubled the speed with 2 gigabits per second LTE and enhanced our Wi-Fi. We have the biggest leap ever from a CPU standpoint on Snapdragon with up to 45% improvement. Our graphics, leading in performance per watt, offers another 20%. We have the most secure fingerprint solution with an under-display 3D sonic sensor. We have the most AI processing with our heterogeneous solution providing 7+ TOPS. It's our 4th generation AI engine. We have all the software and libraries ready so we can work with ISVs to accelerate AI processing, offering more than 3 times the real-world AI performance from the Snapdragon 845. Our ISP took functions that used to run in hexagon and moved them into hardware. So hexagon's even more powerful, and at the same time we can do amazing effects with stills in video. We're bringing HDR10+ for the first time to the mobile platform. When you're taking videos, you can do 4K HDR videos with portrait mode or bokeh at the same time. When you store your pictures, you can use HEIF capture, not just to reduce the storage, but to keep that metadata, keep that depth data for future processing. We've introduced Snapdragon Elite Gaming, a series of hardware and software features that will ensure that if anyone wants a premium tier gaming experience, they're going to want Snapdragon. That includes the first support for Vulkan 1.1 and bringing physically based rendering to the handset. And of course, we have true HDR gaming on mobile. That's a lot of technology. We've talked for 2 hours, yet that's not even everything. And if you think about it, we are a horizontal provider. We have, with the Snapdragon 845, more than 160 designs. We expect equal or even greater success with the Snapdragon 855 as we work with all of our OEMs, all of our ISV partners, all of our carrier partners to bring this technology into hundreds of differentiated premium tier handsets. I want to thank you. We had a great time explaining what millions of man-hours we've put in to design the Snapdragon 855, much less all the work with carriers and the entire ecosystem to bring 5G to reality. We thank you very much for joining us in Maui in this day 2. We have more exciting things on day 3, and I wanted to tell you we appreciate you not hanging out at the beach because you're a lot more educated on the Snapdragon 855, and we can't wait till you have 855 handsets in your hands early next year. Thank you.